president's son lies at death's door. 30 of the best doctors in the country have tried everything and failed. Hope is gone. Fear fills the room. But then a single nurse steps in, a black nurse with calm hands and unwavering courage. What happens next defies belief. It was a bright morning at the presidential residence. The sun was just rising, casting golden light across the manicured gardens. Birds chirped, and for a moment everything seemed calm and perfect. Michael, the president's 10-year-old son, ran across the lawn laughing. He loved mornings like this. He was full of energy, swinging from one game to another. His little hands clutched the swing tightly as he soared higher, his laughter echoing through the garden. Suddenly the swing broke. Michael fell, hitting the ground hard. Time seemed to slow down for everyone present. His nanny screamed, guards rushed toward him, and his parents ran out, their hearts pounding with fear. His small body lay motionless on the grass. Panic set in immediately. The president's voice shook as he called for doctors, his wife's tears falling freely. The emergency alarm rang through the residence. Within minutes, 30 of the nation's top doctors arrived. They carried medical kits, oxygen tanks, and monitors. The room where Michael was brought transformed into a battlefield. Machines beeped loudly, the air smelled of antiseptic, and tension weighed heavily on everyone. The doctors worked together. But even with all their knowledge, Michael's condition worsened. His breathing became irregular. His pulse was faint. Machines continued to beep warnings. The president and his wife held each other tightly, refusing to let go. Guards stood silently, their faces pale. The doctors spoke in technical terms, but their voices carried unease. Michael was slipping away from them, and everyone felt helpless. Each minute felt like an eternity. Nurses tried to comfort the parents, but the fear was too strong. No one could hide it. Then, a nurse named Angela entered the room. She was a black woman in her early 30s, calm and focused. Her uniform was spotless, her presence confident. She had seen emergencies before, but there was something different today. She didn't speak loudly or panic. Instead, she walked straight to Michael, observing him carefully. Her eyes scanned the monitors, the vital signs, and his small body. The doctors hesitated. 30 experts had tried everything, and yet a nurse was stepping forward. Some whispered among themselves, questioning the move. But Angela's gaze did not waver. She gently placed her hands on Michael, feeling for what the machines could not show. Her calm presence seemed to quiet the room. The parents noticed it too. They could feel a faint sense of hope returning, even if just a little. Angela took a deep breath. She began preparing the procedure she believed could save him. Every story begins with a voice. Make sure you're here to hear them all. Subscribe now. It was risky. She knew the consequences if it failed. But something inside her told her that Michael was not done yet. The other nurses moved aside, giving her space. The doctors watched closely, skepticism and curiosity written on their faces. Angela's hands moved steadily, her mind completely focused on the child in front of her. Time passed. Minutes turned into tense moments. Michael's chest barely moved. His eyes were half closed. The president held his son's small hand, whispering reassurances even though he was terrified inside. Angela worked methodically, her actions precise. Almost like a dance she had performed countless times. She whispered instructions to the supporting nurses. Every movement counted. Slowly, something began to change. Michael's breathing, faint at first, became a little steadier. His pulse grew stronger. The monitors that had screamed warnings moments ago now showed signs of improvement. The doctors leaned closer, unable to believe what they were seeing. Angela did not celebrate yet. She continued with focused determination, her every action deliberate, refusing to allow any mistake. For the first time since the accident, a small smile appeared on Michael's mother's face. Tears flowed freely. The president's hand shook less as he watched his son respond. The room, once filled with panic, now held cautious hope. Angela had not yet declared him out of danger, but she had done something the 30 doctors had not. Angela looked at Michael's parents and gave them a small nod. It was a silent reassurance that she was not done yet, that she had the skill and will to save their son. The doctors exchanged glances, some in disbelief, others with newfound respect. Angela continued her careful monitoring, adjusting equipment and checking vitals. Every movement was calculated. Every action mattered. The tension in the room slowly shifted from despair to cautious optimism. Outside, the presidential security team watched, unsure of what to think. The word spread quietly. Someone was trying what the best doctors could not. Angela had stepped in, and for the first time, the possibility of a miracle seemed real. The scene ended with Angela holding Michael's small hand gently. Her eyes locked on him. She did not speak much, but her presence alone brought hope. This was the beginning of a journey that no one in that room would ever forget. The path ahead was still uncertain. But for the first time since the accident, it felt like there might be a way to save the president's son. Angela knew time was slipping away. Michael's vitals were still unstable, and the machines continued their loud, alarming beeps. The 30 doctors had exhausted every standard procedure, and the room carried a heavy tension. Each doctor watched her closely, skeptical yet unable to look away. She leaned over Michael gently, her hand steady. She started a technique she had only studied in medical journals, but never fully seen in practice. Her voice was calm, giving instructions to the assisting nurses. She checked his airway, adjusted his position, and administered precise doses of emergency medication. Every move was deliberate. She monitored his eyes, pulse, and breathing simultaneously. The doctors whispered among themselves. Some muttered that it was useless, that a nurse could not succeed where experts had failed. Others simply watched, holding their breaths. Angela ignored the whispers, focusing entirely on the boy. Minutes passed slowly. She observed the monitors, listened to Michael's weak breaths, and adjusted her approach. Slowly, there was a flicker of change. His breathing became slightly more regular. His pulse, faint at first, strengthened a little. It was a small improvement, almost invisible. Yet it was enough to make some of the doctors step back in disbelief. The president gripped his wife's hand tightly. He had not dared to hope until now. The nurse's calm confidence seemed to create a ripple of hope in the room. Angela continued to work with meticulous care, checking his vitals repeatedly, ensuring no step was skipped. She whispered encouragement to the young boy, talking to him gently, keeping him aware and alert even in his weak state. Finally, after a tense 20 minutes, Michael's breathing stabilized enough to allow him to rest for a moment. Angela carefully monitored the monitors, making minor adjustments to medication. The room, which had been heavy with despair, now felt slightly lighter. The doctors exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to speak or remain silent. Angela did not boast or celebrate. Her face was calm, her focus unwavering. For the president and his wife, it was enough. Tears streamed down their faces as they silently thanked Angela. The boy's pulse had returned, and his color slowly improved. It was not a complete recovery, but it was the first victory in what would be a long battle. Angela gave a small nod to the parents, reassuring them that she was still in control and that more care was necessary. The first attempt had worked partially. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that the impossible might just be possible. But Angela knew this was only the beginning. Michael was still fragile, and the doctors would need to support her method. Yet her calm and precise intervention had already shifted the mood in the room. The president whispered quietly, almost to himself, that maybe, just maybe, his son could be saved. Angela did not respond, but her hands remained on Michael, guiding his fragile body through this delicate phase. She had brought hope where 30 doctors had seen only despair. After the first attempt, the room felt tense, yet slightly hopeful. Some doctors began to acknowledge Angela's skill. Others remained skeptical, believing it was a temporary effect or luck. They approached her cautiously, asking questions about her technique, trying to understand what she had done differently. Angela answered calmly, explaining her observations and adjustments in detail. The head physician, a stern man with decades of experience, initially frowned. He was proud of his profession and did not want to admit that a nurse had succeeded where he had failed. But as he observed Michael's improving vitals, he could not deny the results. Slowly, he nodded in recognition, allowing Angela to continue her method. Angela worked tirelessly. She coordinated the team of nurses and doctors, delegating small tasks, monitoring every vital sign. She combined her unique approach with the standard procedures, creating a hybrid treatment plan. It was precise, calculated, and focused on one goal, saving Michael's life. Outside the room, the media and staff waited for updates. Rumors spread quickly about the boy's condition. The president requested privacy, keeping the reporters and cameras away. But inside, every second counted. Angela knew that one small mistake could reverse all progress. Her focus was absolute, her mind sharp. The other nurses, initially nervous, began to admire her. They observed quietly, learning and assisting where needed. Angela encouraged them, giving clear instructions and demonstrating techniques. Her calm voice guided the team through the tense hours. Even some of the doctors began to take notes, understanding that her method, though unconventional, was working. Hours passed. Michael's condition slowly improved, but he was not out of danger yet. Angela remained vigilant, continuously adjusting and monitoring. She spoke softly to Michael, reassuring him in a gentle tone, keeping his spirit alive even in his weak state. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Michael showed the first signs of stronger consciousness. His fingers moved slightly and his eyes fluttered. The room held its breath. The president leaned forward, holding back tears. Angela gave him a small nod, indicating that his son was responding. The doctors, now less skeptical, began to help stabilize Michael further. It was a turning point. For the first time, there was real hope. Angela had not only saved precious minutes, but had laid the foundation for a full recovery. The mood in the room changed from despair to cautious optimism. The impossible was slowly becoming possible. The president whispered to his wife, finally daring to imagine a future where Michael would be okay. Angela continued her careful monitoring, her presence calm and authoritative. She had proven that skill, determination, and belief could achieve what seemed unreachable. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Michael lay in the bed, pale but stable. Angela had been beside him for hours, her hands steady, her focus unwavering. The first attempt had brought hope, but she knew the night would be crucial. The doctors had left the room for brief breaks, but they continued to consult quietly, acknowledging her method. Some still doubted, but her calm confidence and precise actions commanded respect. Angela monitored Michael's vitals continuously, adjusting the oxygen and medication carefully. Every small change mattered. Outside, the presidential residence was tense. The news of Michael's accident had spread. Though officials controlled information to prevent panic, family members sat in waiting rooms, their faces full of worry. The president paced the hallway, silently praying while his wife held his hand, whispering words of hope. Angela never left Michael's side. She spoke to him softly, telling him stories, gently encouraging him to fight. She knew that emotional support was as important as medical care. Every time his eyes fluttered or his small fingers twitched, she reacted immediately, ensuring that no sign of distress was overlooked. Hours passed slowly. Angela's method required continuous attention, and the young boy's body was fragile. She combined her technique with conventional medicine, carefully balancing them. The doctors returned periodically, checking her work, taking notes, and assisting as needed. The room, once filled with panic and chaos, now carried a focused energy, directed entirely toward saving Michael. Finally, late in the night, Michael moved his hand toward Angela. It was a tiny movement, barely noticeable, but it brought tears to her eyes. The president and his wife were called in quietly. When they saw their son respond, they were overwhelmed with emotion. Angela smiled gently, encouraging them to remain calm. It was progress, but the fight was not over. She stayed with Michael through the night, continuously monitoring, gently adjusting medication, and speaking softly to him. The doctors, now fully supporting her approach, worked alongside her, following her guidance. For the first time, hope felt real. The impossible was no longer just a possibility, it was within reach. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the hospital room. Michael had survived the night, and Angela's method had clearly stabilized him. The doctors were amazed. They had never seen such precise and effective intervention, especially from a nurse. The head physician approached Angela, his previous skepticism replaced with respect. "Your method, it actually worked," he admitted quietly. Angela nodded, modest but firm. She knew that saving Michael required teamwork, patience, and continuous care. Her focus was still entirely on him. Michael's vitals improved steadily throughout the day. He responded more consistently, his color returning, and his breathing becoming normal. Angela adjusted his medications carefully, keeping him comfortable and safe. She encouraged him to speak, smile, and interact, knowing that psychological recovery was as important as physical healing. The president and his wife stayed close, watching every small sign of progress. Angela explained each step of the recovery process to them, answering questions patiently. The parents, once terrified, now dared to imagine that their son could survive. They began to trust Angela completely. Other staff members observed her work, learning from her precision and dedication. Nurses and doctors alike realized that her calm, presence, and careful technique had made all the difference. Angela had combined medical knowledge with empathy, creating an environment where healing was possible. By evening, Michael could sit up slightly with assistance. His smile, weak but genuine, lit up the room. The president quietly whispered a thank you to Angela, his eyes filled with gratitude. She remained humble, focusing on the boy's recovery rather than praise. Angela knew that the battle was far from over. Michael needed careful monitoring, therapy, and continued care. But this moment was critical, the first major victory. She had brought life where death seemed certain, and in doing so, she had changed the course of the president's family forever. For Angela, it was not just about being a nurse. It was about refusing to give up when everyone else had. Her dedication, skill, and belief had created a miracle that no doctor alone could have achieved. She stayed through the night, ensuring that Michael continued to stabilize, silently promising to be there every step of the way. The following morning, Michael's condition showed remarkable improvement. His breathing was steady, and his small hands moved freely for the first time since the accident. The doctors marveled at the progress. Some still whispered that it was miraculous, while others nodded in quiet respect for Angela. Her presence in the room had transformed the atmosphere. Where despair had once reigned, hope now flowed like a gentle river. Angela checked every monitor carefully, her movements deliberate and precise. She adjusted oxygen levels and medications, explaining each step to the staff around her. The other nurses observed in awe, silently taking mental notes. Even the head physician, a man who had doubted her at first, now followed her guidance without question. Michael opened his eyes fully and looked around the room. He tried to sit up, but his tiny body was still weak. Angela placed a gentle hand on his shoulder to steady him. "Take it slow," she said softly. Her calm voice seemed to reassure him, and his tense muscles relaxed. The president and his wife entered the room. They had stayed close all night, hovering silently, their hearts full of worry and hope. When they saw Michael's eyes open and his slight smile, tears filled their eyes. Angela smiled back at them, encouraging them to remain calm. This was a fragile victory, not yet complete. Michael reached for his mother's hand, and she held it tightly, whispering words of encouragement. The president bent down, brushing Michael's hair gently from his forehead. Angela stepped back, allowing them to share this precious moment. The room, once filled with tension and fear, now carried a sense of calm celebration. Angela knew that healing was not just physical. Michael needed emotional support. She began to speak to him gently, asking him small questions, encouraging him to respond. Each word he spoke, each small laugh, was a victory. The doctors watched silently, amazed at the way she had brought life back into a child who had been on the brink of death. As the day progressed, Michael's strength continued to improve. He could sit up with minimal assistance, and his color returned to a healthy glow. Angela carefully monitored every change, adjusting treatments with meticulous attention. She also encouraged him to drink water, eat small portions, and move gently to rebuild his strength. The medical team gradually began to rely on her judgment completely. Angela coordinated their efforts seamlessly, creating a rhythm where every movement and every intervention contributed to Michael's recovery. The head physician finally approached her. "I underestimated you," he admitted quietly. "Your technique, it works." Angela simply nodded. She had no need for praise. Her goal had always been clear: save Michael's life. Late in the afternoon, a breakthrough came. Michael managed to lift his head fully, smile at Angela, and say, "I feel better." The words were small, but the impact was enormous. The parents wept quietly, overcome with emotion. Angela gently placed her hand on Michael's shoulder, reassuring him and keeping him steady. She knew this was a turning point. For Angela, this moment was more than a professional victory. It was a confirmation that dedication, skill, and unwavering belief could create miracles. She had defied the odds, stepping in where 30 doctors had struggled, and brought life back to a child who had seemed lost. The room seemed brighter, filled with hope and quiet gratitude. By evening, Michael could move his arms and legs more confidently. He even laughed softly when his mother made a funny face. The president and his wife watched, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down their faces. Angela remained calm, observing him, ensuring that no sudden complication would arise. This was the beginning of the final phase of his recovery. The first miracle had occurred. Angela's dedication and skill had made it possible. It was clear to everyone in the room that this child's life had been saved by something extraordinary, a combination of knowledge, intuition, and unwavering courage. As night fell, Angela stayed by Michael's side, ready to respond to any sign of distress. Her calm presence, steady hands, and unwavering focus had created an environment where healing was not only possible but inevitable. The miracle was in motion, and no one doubted that Michael's full recovery was within reach. Morning sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, casting soft stripes across the room. Michael's condition had improved remarkably overnight, thanks to Angela's unwavering attention. He was still weak, but his body was responding positively. Each small movement he made was a sign of victory. Angela entered the room early, as she always did, her calm presence immediately filling the space with reassurance. She checked the monitors, adjusted medication, and gently examined Michael's arms and legs. Today was a crucial day. He needed to regain strength quickly to prevent any complications. The president and his wife had been anxiously waiting. They had seen Angela work tirelessly, and now, for the first time, they allowed themselves a sense of cautious optimism. The president spoke softly to Michael, encouraging him to move his fingers, and his son responded with small, yet intentional movements. Angela guided him through gentle exercises. She held his tiny hands and asked him to grip softly, then relax. Each motion, though simple, was significant. Michael's muscles had weakened during the accident, and rebuilding them required patience and precision. Angela's instructions were calm, clear, and repetitive, allowing him to focus without fear. The doctors observed quietly, following Angela's lead. Some whispered to each other, astonished at the results. Angela had developed a rhythm with the team. Every small improvement was celebrated quietly, with no fanfare but with undeniable relief. Michael's color had returned, his eyes were brighter, and his smile began to reappear. Angela noticed something remarkable. Michael's hand movement was stronger than the previous day. She encouraged him, praising his effort. "Good job, Michael. You are doing amazing." The young boy's face lit up and he giggled softly. That tiny laugh echoed through the room, breaking the lingering tension from the past days. The parents watched, holding each other's hands tightly. Tears streamed down their faces as they realized how far their son had come. Angela's efforts had not only saved him physically, but had restored hope in their hearts. The bond between Angela and Michael grew stronger with every passing minute. He trusted her completely, responding to her guidance with determination. By midday, Michael could sit up in bed with support. Angela adjusted his position carefully, ensuring no strain or discomfort. She spoke softly to him, explaining each movement, making him feel safe and motivated. His breathing was steady and his pulse was strong. The monitors no longer signaled danger, but Angela remained vigilant. She knew recovery was a delicate process, and one misstep could reverse the progress. The doctors began to assist in the exercises, following Angela's precise instructions. Her leadership had transformed the room. Where panic and despair once dominated, now there was collaboration and cautious celebration. Each team member understood that Angela's technique was unique, requiring both patience and focus. Later in the afternoon, Michael managed to hold a small toy in his hands, gripping it firmly. It was a symbolic moment, showing not only physical recovery but also mental resilience. Angela smiled gently, whispering words of encouragement. The president approached and praised Michael softly, while tears welled up in his eyes. He could barely believe that his son was regaining strength after being so close to death. Angela reminded everyone that recovery was still ongoing. Michael needed consistent support and careful observation, yet this day marked a turning point. The boy who had been on the brink of death was now showing real strength and determination. Angela's skill, patience, and unwavering focus had brought life and hope back into his fragile body. By evening, Michael could lift his head fully and even respond to small conversations. His eyes sparkled with curiosity and his small voice began to return. The president and his wife watched in awe, realizing that the nurse who had entered the room days ago had done the impossible. Angela had rewritten the course of their lives with dedication, knowledge, and courage. As night fell, Angela remained vigilant. She stayed by Michael's side, guiding his movements, monitoring his vitals, and providing quiet encouragement. The room was filled with a calm sense of hope. The miracle she had started was gaining momentum. Every small movement, every heartbeat, was a testament to her skill and determination. Michael was no longer just surviving, he was beginning to thrive. Morning light filled the hospital room. Michael was no longer the fragile boy who had arrived barely breathing. His small body had regained strength. His movements were deliberate, and his eyes sparkled with curiosity. Angela entered quietly, her calm presence immediately reassuring everyone in the room. She checked the monitors and smiled subtly at the improvement. Michael's pulse was strong, his breathing steady, and his color had returned to healthy pink. She gently placed her hands on his shoulders, helping him sit upright. "Good morning, Michael. Ready for today's exercises?" she asked softly. The boy nodded, eager to show progress. The doctors had now fully embraced Angela's method. They observed every step she took, learning how she had combined traditional medical care with her unique approach. Some whispered in admiration. Her focus, patience, and gentle guidance had transformed a near-tragic situation into a story of hope. Angela guided Michael through gentle movements, encouraging him to stretch his arms and legs. Each small improvement was noted and carefully reinforced. His body responded quickly, stronger than the previous day. He lifted his tiny arms with confidence, and a soft laugh escaped him. The room, once heavy with fear, was now filled with quiet joy. The president and his wife watched from the side, tears in their eyes. They had not expected their son to recover so quickly. Every small gesture from Michael, lifting his hand, smiling, or speaking a word, was a gift. Angela's presence had been the key, her dedication the driving force behind every positive change. By mid-morning, Michael was able to sit without support. He could hold a small cup of water and drink carefully. Angela stayed close, ensuring that he remained stable, guiding him with gentle hands and quiet encouragement. She explained each step to the parents, reassuring them that his recovery was on track, but still required care and patience. The doctors watched in awe. Angela's technique was simple but effective. Her calm demeanor, precise monitoring, and unwavering focus had created a safe space for Michael to heal. Every small movement he made was a testament to her skill and dedication. Even the head physician, once skeptical, now openly praised her approach. Around noon, a breakthrough came. Michael managed to stand briefly with Angela supporting him. His legs were still weak, but he held his balance. Angela encouraged him, gently correcting his posture and guiding his movements. Each step was a small victory, a demonstration of the miraculous progress he had made. The president and his wife were overwhelmed with emotion. They held each other tightly, silently thanking Angela for the life she had saved. Michael looked up at Angela, smiling, and whispered, "Thank you." Angela smiled back, brushing his hair gently from his forehead. "You did this, Michael." "You are strong," she said softly. As afternoon approached, Michael continued to demonstrate improvement. He could move more confidently, speak more clearly, and even laugh naturally. The room was filled with relief and quiet celebration. Angela remained vigilant, carefully monitoring his vitals and guiding him through each exercise. She knew that recovery was not just physical, it was emotional and mental too. By evening, Michael could take a few steps with minimal assistance. Each step was a triumph, a reminder that the boy who had nearly died was now reclaiming his life. The president and his wife stood nearby, overwhelmed with gratitude. Angela had done what 30 doctors could not. She had brought a child back from the brink of death. The scene ended with Angela sitting beside Michael, holding his hand gently, her eyes calm and focused. She had proven that skill, patience, and unwavering belief could create a miracle. The journey was not over, but the hardest part was behind them. Michael's recovery had truly begun, and no one in the room would ever forget the nurse who had made the impossible possible. Michael's recovery had reached a critical stage. His body was stronger, but he still faced challenges. Angela remained by his side, guiding him through the exercises that would rebuild his muscles and stamina. Each movement was slow and deliberate, but with every step, Michael gained confidence. The doctors continued to monitor him, now fully trusting Angela's judgment. They assisted where needed, but it was her unique approach that had brought him this far. Angela's calm presence encouraged Michael to push himself gently, without fear. One afternoon, Michael attempted to walk without support. His legs wobbled and his small hands trembled as he tried to balance. The room fell silent. The president and his wife watched anxiously. Angela stepped closer, her hands ready to support him if needed. "Take it one step at a time, Michael," she said softly. "You can do this." The boy's eyes were wide with determination. He focused on Angela's calm voice, his tiny body moving carefully. His first step was shaky, but he did not fall. Then another step and another. Angela guided him gently, letting him regain balance on his own. After several attempts, Michael managed to walk across the room, supported only lightly by Angela's hand. The president and his wife clapped softly, tears streaming down their faces. It was a moment of triumph. The boy who had nearly died was now taking steps toward full recovery. Angela continued to monitor him closely, ensuring that no strain or injury occurred. She encouraged him, praised him, and guided him patiently. The other doctors observed quietly, learning from her calm and methodical approach. They realized that what they had once doubted was now a clear demonstration of skill, dedication, and empathy. Michael's laughter returned that evening. He played with a small toy, moving his hands and feet with strength and coordination. Angela smiled, quietly proud. The parents approached, hugging their son tightly. "You are amazing, Michael," his mother whispered. The president nodded, tears in his eyes, silently thanking Angela for saving their child. Angela reminded everyone that recovery was ongoing. Michael still needed careful monitoring, therapy, and emotional support. But the hardest part was behind them. The boy who had been on the brink of death had now overcome the greatest struggle, thanks to a combination of medical knowledge, patience, and unwavering care. A few days later, Michael could walk without help. His strength had returned, and his laughter filled the hospital room. Angela had stayed by his side through every moment, guiding, watching, and never giving up. The president and his wife couldn't stop smiling. Doctors, once doubtful, now called it a miracle. The president walked over to Angela. "You saved my son," he said softly. Angela smiled humbly. "Michael was strong, sir. We just helped him find his way back." Michael hugged Angela tightly. "Thank you," he whispered. She smiled, eyes shining with pride. When the family finally left the hospital, Michael walked between his parents, waving goodbye. The president turned once more. "You are extraordinary," he said. Angela stood quietly, her heart full. She had done what 30 doctors could not. The boy had lived, the family was whole, and the world would remember the nurse who refused to give up.